Imagine you wake up in the age of giants. Your eyes open, but something feels wrong. The ground beneath you trembles rhythmically, like a massive heartbeat. You sit up, confused, only to realize these aren't heartbeats, they're footsteps. You stumble to what you think is your window, but as you look outside, terror grips you. The landscape has changed. Every tree looks like a twig. Every hill seems flattened. And in the distance, moving slowly but deliberately toward your settlement, are shadows that stretch across the horizon like moving mountains. The Hebrew Bible calls them Nephilim. Genesis 6:4 describes them clearly. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went in to the daughters of humans, who bore children to them. These were the heroes that were of old, warriors of renown. But as you watch these titanic figures approach, one thing becomes crystal clear. These weren't heroes. They were your executioners. According to the Book of Enoch, an ancient text that predates the Bible, these giants weren't just large humans. They were abominations. Hybrid creatures born from the union of fallen angels and human women. The text describes them as being 3,000 ells in height. That's over 9,000 feet tall. Now, as one of these creatures draws near your settlement, you realize what those measurements actually mean. You crane your neck upward, but you can't even see where this being ends. Its foot, now visible in the distance, is larger than your entire village. When it takes a single step, the ground shakes so violently that you're thrown to your knees. You try to run, but where? In a world built by and for giants, there is nowhere a creature your size can hide. These giants weren't content to coexist with humanity. According to ancient sources, they were insatiable consumers. The Book of Enoch states that they consumed all the acquisitions of men. When that wasn't enough, they began eating humans themselves. As you crouch behind what used to be your home's wall, now reduced to rubble by the giant's approach, you watch in horror as massive fingers, each thicker than tree trunks, begin plucking people from the ruins. Your neighbors, your friends, your family, lifted effortlessly and examined like insects before disappearing into a mouth so vast you could walk into it standing upright. This is your new reality. You are not just small, you are food. Let's say you somehow survived that first encounter. Maybe the giant was distracted by easier prey. Maybe you found a crack in the earth deep enough to hide in. Now you face an even more terrifying prospect. How do you live day to day in a world that wasn't built for you? You need food, but the crops that once fed your village are now trampled into the earth by footsteps larger than houses. The few grains that remain are scattered across miles of devastated landscape, and gathering them would mean exposing yourself in the open for hours when another giant might appear on the horizon. You need shelter, but look around. Every structure in this world is built to accommodate beings whose scale you can barely comprehend. The doorways tower above you like cathedral entrances, if you could even reach them. The stairs are carved from single blocks of stone, each step taller than you are. Across the globe, we find massive stone structures that mainstream archaeology struggles to explain. The trilithons at Stonehenge, the foundation stones at Baalbek, some weighing over 800 tons, the precision-cut blocks at Pumapunku in Bolivia, fitted together so perfectly that you can't slide a knife blade between them. Modern engineers admit they couldn't build these structures today, even with our advanced machinery. But now you understand why they exist. They were built by and for beings who could handle 800-ton stones, like you handle coffee cups. You need water, but the wells and fountains of this giant world are so deep and wide that approaching them is like standing at the edge of a cliff. The containers used to draw water are larger than bathtubs and weigh more than cars. Even if you could reach the water, how would you lift a bucket designed for hands the size of your entire body? In Lebanon, the ancient site of Baalbek contains the largest worked stone blocks in the world. The Temple of Jupiter sits on a foundation of stones, each weighing 800 tons. But even more mysterious are the unfinished stones in the nearby quarry. Blocks weighing up to 1,200 tons, cut with precision that defies explanation. As you wander through these giant-built cities, every tool you encounter is impossibly large. Hammers that weigh as much as cars, cups that could serve as swimming pools, weapons that you couldn't even budge, let alone wield. You're not just small in this world, you're utterly helpless. And that's when you realize the horrifying truth. You weren't meant to survive here. You were meant to serve, or be consumed. But let's say you've managed to find food, water, and some form of shelter in the crevices of this giant world. Now comes the truly terrifying part, dealing with the rulers themselves. The Book of Jubilees, another ancient text, states that injustice increased on the earth and all flesh corrupted its way during the time of the giants. They weren't just physically superior, they were morally bankrupt. And you, tiny and defenseless, would be completely at their mercy. Picture your typical morning routine in this nightmare world. You wake up, if you manage to sleep through the constant rumbling of giant footsteps, and immediately check the horizon for massive silhouettes. But then you hear it, a sound like thunder, but rhythmic. Laughter, giant laughter, echoing across the landscape like the voice of a god. And it's getting closer. According to the scriptures, these beings filled the earth with violence. The Hebrew word used to describe their behavior, Hamas, means violence in its most extreme form. Not just killing, but cruelty, oppression, and the complete absence of justice. As the laughter grows louder, you realize with horror what's happening. They're playing a game, and you're the game piece. You run, but your tiny legs can only carry you so far. The ground shakes with each massive footstep behind you, each one covering more distance than you could run in minutes. You dive behind a boulder just as a shadow falls over you, a shadow cast by a being so tall you can't see its head. A voice booms above you, speaking in a language that sounds like landslides and thunder. You don't understand the words, but the tone is clear. Amusement. To this creature, your desperate flight is entertainment. A massive hand reaches down, a hand larger than your entire hiding place. Fingers thicker than tree trunks probe the area around your rock, toying with you, letting you think you might escape before cutting off your route. This isn't hunting, this is play, and you're the toy. This is what daily life would be like under giant rule. Not a struggle for survival, but a prolonged form of entertainment for beings who see you as nothing more than an amusing pest. The ancient texts suggest that these giants weren't just randomly violent, they were systematically evil. They taught humans forbidden knowledge, the arts of war, the making of weapons, the secrets of sorcery and seduction. But they did this not to help humanity advance, but to corrupt and ultimately destroy them. Let's say you encounter a friendly giant, one who doesn't immediately try to crush or eat you. Instead, it kneels down to your level, which still puts its face high above you like a building, and begins to teach you things. But the knowledge it shares is poisonous. How to make weapons that will turn humans against each other. How to manipulate others through dark arts. How to summon powers that will corrupt your very soul. You realize that even the kind giants aren't trying to help you. They're trying to damn you. Their very presence corrupts everything they touch, turning survival itself into a form of spiritual poison. You wouldn't just be living under giant overlords. You'd be living in a world poisoned by their influence, where every day of survival comes at the cost of your humanity. But perhaps most terrifying of all would be the technology these giants possessed. Ancient texts hint at capabilities that sound almost like science fiction. The ability to manipulate weather, to move massive stones through the air, to create hybrid creatures, and to access knowledge from beyond the physical world. Now imagine being on the receiving end of such power. You're hiding in what you think is a safe cave when suddenly the weather outside changes. Not gradually, like a natural storm, but instantly. The sky turns black, lightning begins striking in precise patterns, and you realize with horror that this isn't natural. It's being controlled. The Book of Enoch describes the Watchers teaching humans about the cutting of roots and the power of enchantment. Other texts speak of giants who could control the elements, who built flying vessels, and who possessed weapons of unimaginable power. You peer outside your cave and see massive stone blocks floating through the air like leaves in the wind, rearranging themselves into new structures at the giant's whim. The very physics of your world are being rewritten by beings whose technology you can't even begin to understand. Archaeological evidence supports some of these claims. In Peru, the Sacsayhuaman fortress contains stones so perfectly fitted that they've survived countless earthquakes without mortar. The precision of the cuts suggests technology far beyond anything ancient humans should have possessed. Local legends attribute the construction to giants who could make stones walk. But imagine witnessing such construction as a tiny human observer. You watch as stones larger than buildings move through the air without any visible means of support, fitting together with impossible precision. You realize that in this world, the very elements are your enemies,